Hey guys, how you doing today? Just got out of the grocery store, just heading on home. Good to feed myself, you know. Something our society doesn't actually support is the food and sheltering of people, right? Today we're going to be talking about the Georgia voting rolls change, like the rules change that's going on in Georgia. Basically, the Republican Party is passing legislation to make it more difficult for Black and Hispanic people to vote. Pretty straightforward, pretty classical stuff. This is leading people down this sort of path of demonizing the Republican Party, which, you can't demonize demons. They're demons. You don't need to demonize them. They are evil. So you don't need to go any farther than that. But the perspective that I keep hearing, right, is this exclusively Republican narrative, right? This exclusively Republican narrative. And that, the Republicans are going to dismantle democracy and the Republicans are going to do this, that, and the other thing. And really, this video is just to say, American democracy is irrelevant, right? It's all just a show. It's just a show, right? It's just something it's a ritual that the Americans partake in order to maintain the high-level delusion that they live in some other structure other than feudalism, which is obviously the structure that they're in, right? You sell your labor into a market that is dominated by a small group of billionaires, each of which might as well be a feudal king, right? This is obviously the structure of it. And the fact that the Republicans are trying to make it so that Black and Hispanic people have a more difficult time voting is just sort of it's more of a personal thing for the Republicans than it is an assault on some kind of structure, right? The feudal overlords don't listen to you anyway. They own the politicians, right? It doesn't matter if they're Republican, doesn't matter if they're Democrat, right? They own the system, they own the structure. They're not going to pass legislation to help anybody. They're not going to pass legislation to improve anybody's lot. They're not going to do anything to actually progress the society forward in any meaningful way. If anything, they're going to regress, right? They're going to regress back into a feudal structure. That's the whole point of neoliberalism. That's the whole point of the structure, is to regress the society away from liberty, away from equality, away from these sorts of things, except in sort of superficial ways. They're perfectly happy to say Black Lives Matter as long as you're working for us, right? That's completely standard propaganda tactic, right? And right now people are getting up in arms about this Georgia thing because, Republicans are making it harder to vote, and absurd things like you can't give water to people, right? Things like this where you can't, if somebody's standing in the line, you can't give them food, you can't give them water, right? Imagine making that illegal. You're making giving food and water to anybody at any point at any time illegal. It's sociopathic is what it is. But what it isn't is an assault on the democratic structure of America, because the democratic structure of America is strictly superficial. It doesn't exist in any meaningful way. None of the legislation that citizens want passed gets passed, focused on, paid any attention to, because their structure is strictly theatrical, right? And we are starting to see that in Georgia, if the rules don't work for specific individuals, right, then they'll change those rules so that it'll be a Republican sitting there, right? It'll be, John Kokomo of Hoboblo instead of Jim Billabong of Din Jwali or whatever, right? Who cares, right? Who cares? Because both agree that the capitalist structure is good. Both have ceded power to the corporate oligarch class. Both are in the pocket of big business and big corporate power, right? Both work for those interests. So really, the Georgia voting scandal isn't this big, democracy is failing and all that kind of. Democracy's already failed in America. It's already over. It's already become a feudal structure that is non-responsive to the needs of the citizenry. Obviously non-responsive to the needs of the citizenry, right? Just pay attention to what happened over COVID. It did absolutely nothing, right? Literally nothing. And basically just told the citizenry, fend for yourselves, you'll be fine, right? Well, some of you won't, but that's fine, right? And So what we're seeing in Georgia is just a way for selfish man babies, basically, who are in the Republican Party, to try and tilt the table in their favor so that they can get into office and they can get the personal prestige and they can get the personal power and they can make the wealth and they can do this sort of stuff instead of the Democrat. But it has nothing to do with, like, if the Democrat gets in, it's the same story, right? They're still going to abandon people. They're still going to leave people behind. They're still going to do all this kind of stuff. And the framing of this conversation as a race issue is crucial, right? It's crucial that it's framed as a race issue and not an economic issue, right? And it's crucial that capitalism and capitalists have to consistently and constantly lay siege and lay assault to racial minorities and like gender issues and these sorts of things. That's why the Republicans are really banging on the pulpit about cancel culture and all this kind of stuff, because they can't have genuine, honest discussions about the nature of the system, right? They can't actually have genuine, honest discussions about the nature of the system. If they attempted to have actual discussions about the nature of their system, they would sound like the people in documents like Cotton is King, right? Wonderful book, I recommend everybody read it, where they literally say that black people are inferior and that God has decreed that white people should have control and all this kind of stuff. And if they attempted to defend these positions, which they obviously believe, right? Well, they would sound exactly as we think they are, which is demons, right? They would sound like the demons that we know that they are. And so if you and so the issue with the Georgia situation is more of a like personal one, right? Because the structure of the entire system in American democracy, right, such that as it exists, is just a song and dance. It's just superficial, and they will steadily get rid of it, right? That just before, if you're one of these people that darts out of these videos around this period of time, please just leave a like, leave a subscription, right? Say hi. Those sorts of things. Sorry, just getting myself all together here. And sorry, there's just like a little gathering of people there. So like the American system, right? The American democracy that's such as it exists down in America, right? It is just for show, right? It's just a way to funnel people's angst and anxiety away from where it needs to go, which is the street, right? It's just a way to tell people that, oh yeah, we'll respond to you. Oh yeah, oh I'm your representative. Yeah, I'll listen to you. All of that. It's just a way for these institutions to full scale funnel all of the societal angst and anger away from where it needs to go, which is that the entire populace needs to surround the White House, in a full-scale general strike, right? That's what needs to happen now. It's not debatable. The funneling energy into the halls of power is a dead end, right? Funneling energy into the democratic process is a dead end. It's not going to go anywhere in America because the system is just theatrics. It's just for show. You just take a look at this, AOC. New reports are coming out about AOC and how irrelevant she is, how pointless she is, and how she's defending the oligarch class while simultaneously acting as a front for progressivism, right? She's like, yeah, look at me, I'm the progressive. Yeah, I want progressive agendas. I'm not going to actually fight for them. I'm not actually going to vote for them. I'm not actually going to put anything forward. I'm not actually going to withhold my vote or try to do anything legislatively. I'm just going to talk this way. And the people in the parties understand that the game is it's a show. They understand that. They understand that it's all PR. They understand that. So they don't mind that AOC goes on TV and is like, tax the billionaires, as long as she doesn't vote to tax the billionaires, right? They don't care what she says. They care what she does. And what she does is fight for corporate power, right? While simultaneously saying, yeah, we should tax the billionaires. Yeah, but she doesn't actually vote that way. And this change in voting laws in Georgia, while it is a regression and while it is targeted, right, it's not a fundamental change in how the American democratic system works. That if the corporate power structure, if the populace was suddenly able to elect representatives who actually did respond to the needs of the people, right? Let's say that people actually elected people who actually did pass legislation that actually was for the benefit of the populace. Let's say that that actually started to happen. The corporate power structure would do away with it, right? They would just do away with it. They don't need it, right? They have major control and major stake in the American military. The American military is obviously running the place. The military-industrial complex, which has major connections to like Raytheon, which has major connections to I'm blanking on the other names. It doesn't matter. But like these arms dealers and these weapons manufacturers, right? They own the American military. They have major control in what happens in these military endeavors. And if the American populace was able to organize itself and funnel its energy into the democratic process in a manner that influenced that at all, for any reason, they'd just do away with it, right? They would. They'd just get rid of it. It's happened in the past before. Like, I mean, this is the thing that I say that kind of thing and people kind of scoff, and I can tell that they have this kind of like, oh, okay, John, whatever you think. It's exactly what's happened in the past over and over and over again. It's the more likely scenario, right? This idea that our democracy and like American democracy is unassailable, that it's this immortal, eternal thing that will always be in place, and that we will never experience a like military dictatorship that takes over America. It's far more likely that America does collapse into a military dictatorship if it isn't already one, right? Like, who they give the populace this choice to vote for, you know, a different color of jacket every 4 years, but the person wearing the jacket is still like a lunatic capitalist death cultist, right? Like, at what point is there actually supposed to be a democratic option, or at what point is there actually any kind of democratic decision making, right? And all of the studies show that the American government is completely unresponsive to the needs of the populace, right? That they do not pass the legislation, that they do not actually do anything. And this all flows into the sort of thesis of this particular video, which is that the American style democracy and capitalism fails. That America is a failed state. That they don't go along with anything that good that the world populace puts on the table, right? They don't go along with it. They refuse to declare things like food a human right, right? They're not interested in helping anybody. They're not interested. They are a death cult that has arisen, seized like nuclear armaments and nuclear power, and basically just do what they want on the world stage. And as America starts to get into this war with China, as we're all going to witness, we're going to see like how sociopathic these guys actually get. And so like this Georgia situation where these Georgians are trying to make things harder for black people, like it's interesting from like a race relations, but it's the same old song and dance. And it is just a way like, oh, the Republicans are attacking the black people, so they're bad, so let's vote for the Democrats, who are going to make it easier for the black people to vote. And then the Democrats will just continue to ignore the plight of the black people, and they'll just continue to not bother passing legislation to actually help anybody. Oh, but they'll pass legislation to reduce taxes for billionaires. They'll do that. All day long they'll do that. Because the Republicans and Democrats are in complete lockstep on that point, right? So as long as we keep believing that A, America is a democracy, and that B, it matters if they keep voting Republican or Democrat, then we're just going to completely funnel all of our energy into that discussion instead of saying what we should be saying. We need a general strike. We need to surround the White House. Doesn't matter who's inside of it. And we need to demand a complete restructure of the capitalist system, right? That's what's going to have to happen. We need to do it. It's not really an option anymore. It has to happen. Okay, guys, this is the end of this video. You guys are doing really wonderfully out there. I know you are. Don't listen to the propaganda. Don't listen to the gaslighting. These guys spend billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to gaslight you and convince you that, like, you live in a democracy or, like, any of these sorts of things. Don't let them, right? You're a wonderful person. You're doing great out there. Good luck. We're going to need it.